The stakeholder who complains the loudest isn't always your biggest risk. The real threat often comes from those who remain silent. Research shows that even a single disengaged stakeholder can undermine project success, while an engaged one can drive results. That's why effective stakeholder management means more than just listening to vocal opinions. Today, you'll learn how to build your stakeholder register, map influence using the power of interest grid, and identify hidden objections before they escalate. By applying a systems thinking approach, you can spot the subtle signs of resistance that most leaders overlook and strengthen the foundation of your project. If you're new here, please subscribe and like, because I share tips to help you improve your career. Understanding stakeholder influence starts with recognizing the subtle, interconnected patterns that drive project dynamics. Stakeholders don't operate in isolation. Their decisions and attitudes are shaped by a web of relationships, informal alliances, and shifting priorities. The Project Management Institute's PMBOK framework emphasizes that stakeholder engagement is a continuous process, not a one-time checklist. By mapping out these connections in your stakeholder register and using influence grids, you can better anticipate how shifts in one stakeholder's position may quietly impact others. Passive objections rarely show up in direct confrontation. Instead, you'll notice them in delayed email responses, ambiguous feedback, or sudden changes in meeting participation. A stakeholder who once replied promptly now takes days to respond, or a decision maker who used to attend key meetings starts delegating to others. These are not just quirks. They are early indicators of hesitation or resistance. PMBOK's communication management processes recommend tracking these deviations from established patterns, as they often signal underlying concerns that could escalate if ignored. 3 core patterns often shape stakeholder behaviors. First, there are high-stake silencers, individuals with significant influence who rarely voice objections openly, but can halt progress through inaction or subtle withdrawal. Next, proxy influencers emerge, where opinions or decisions are filtered through intermediaries, making it harder to identify true sources of support or resistance. Finally, scope creep boosters appear, stakeholders who quietly push for additional requirements or changes, often without direct confrontation, leading to project drift and resource strain. Mapping these patterns using tools like RACI matrices and network diagrams helps reveal indirect lines of influence and potential bottlenecks before they become critical. By focusing on these patterns and leveraging standard stakeholder management tools, you gain a clearer picture of the hidden forces shaping your project. Recognizing these dynamics prepares you to anticipate the ripple effects that occur when even a single stakeholder's position shifts, effects that can cascade through your entire network. If you're finding this helpful, please subscribe and like, because it helps us create content that matters to you. Also, if you want to take your skills further, check out our executive education and executive coaching programs at execbeat.com. To understand how stakeholder influence shapes project outcomes, you need to map the pathways through which decisions and concerns travel in your organization. When a change occurs, whether it's a new process, a resource shift, or a revised timeline, it rarely remains isolated. Stakeholders are linked through formal reporting lines, informal alliances, and shared objectives. Using tools like the Stakeholder Register and Influence Grid, you can visualize these connections and see where a single adjustment might set off a sequence of reactions across the network. A practical approach is to conduct impact assessments before making key decisions. This involves identifying which stakeholders are directly affected and then tracing how those effects might extend to others. For example, a change in project scope may initially seem to impact only the operations team, but mapping influence often reveals that finance, compliance, and even external partners could be drawn in as the change propagates. Power interest ratings help you pinpoint which individuals or groups have the ability to block progress, or quietly escalate issues, even if they are not the most vocal. Influence mapping also exposes silent vetoes, stakeholders who rarely speak up, but whose disengagement or lack of support can stall critical activities. For instance, a department manager's buy-in might be essential because their team supports multiple project functions. If that manager is hesitant, the effect can ripple through several departments, slowing down approvals or introducing resistance in unexpected places. By tracking these central nodes in your stakeholder network, you can prioritize engagement efforts where they will have the greatest impact. Another effective method is to observe how information moves between stakeholders. Quick responses and frequent communication often indicate close ties, meaning changes will spread rapidly and require coordinated messaging. In contrast, slower communication may signal disconnected groups, where misalignment can take longer to surface, but may be harder to resolve once it does. Monitoring these patterns helps you tailor your outreach and address concerns before they escalate. Taking a systems thinking approach, you see that stakeholders are not isolated actors, but parts of an interconnected whole. Each decision influences the broader network, sometimes in subtle but significant ways. By mapping these relationships and anticipating the domino effect, you can strengthen your project's foundation and adapt more effectively to change. Effective stakeholder management relies on viewing your network as an interconnected system. Rather than focusing on individual opinions, use established PMBOK tools to reveal how relationships and influence drive project outcomes. Your stakeholder register helps you identify everyone involved, while the influence grid clarifies who holds power and who may quietly resist. The communication plan ensures targeted, consistent outreach, and the RACI matrix defines clear roles and responsibilities across your team. Build your influence grid, map hidden resistors, schedule targeted touchpoints, and watch your project stay on track. By surfacing passive resistance and engaging key players, you create a stronger, more resilient project environment. The most valuable insights come from observing how the system responds, not just from what individuals say. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like, because it helps us bring you more free videos. And if you're ready to grow your career, visit execbeat.com to learn about our executive education and coaching.